All right. Well, I'm guessing we could see the. What? Anyway, let me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, and there's a slide that does a countdown before we go live, and apparently you couldn't see it, or I did something.
No, I'm sorry. When I saw the numbers, I thought that's when I started my words.
No, that's the countdown to when we go live.
I'm sorry.
We were off live until that gets down to 0.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, it's the off night. That's pretty simple.
And I was off.
And you were way off. So
well, no reason to beat me up now. Jesus Christ.
Well, come on. We're chop busting. That's what.
That's true.
That's what.
Remember when Letterman would do a joke and the audience would boo, and he'd say, "Folks, before you get too upset, you might want to ask yourself, what did you pay to get in?"
You pay to get in here. I love that. That was always great.
And also, if they'd be like, "Oh," he go, "You hear what they're saying?" They're going, "Oh, Dave."
All right. Well, we always start off with my wife reading our poem. It's a great poem. We're going to try to stick to it because she's got some great topics this week. For oh, there she is.
Hi.
Boy, do you look relaxed.
Thank you.
I thought I was. I'm back in my bed. I had surgery last Friday, so those of you that recognize the fan behind me, that's from my bedroom. And
very seductive.
Yeah, isn't it? And my wife is in a soundproof booth.
That's right.
I would like to call it that. Anyway, I'm going to put her on by herself. Take Sam and I off. We'll both be back after her poem. All right. So here's Susan.
Okay, and this isn't even all the topics Mark wanted in his poem, but here we go. Rosalind Carter was buried. Henry Kissinger has died. Our nation is sad, and we all have cried. 17 days in a tunnel collapse for a road project their government seeks. Rescuers saved 41 workers in the Indian Himalayas in this week. The George Santos vote to expel was 311 to 114. Let's hope his departure is not a smokescreen. 2024 candidate Haley has risen in the polls. She still trails Trump, but she has better goals. Her second child born via surrogacy, a precious little pearl. Paris Hilton recently welcomed baby London, a girl. Ceasefire release of Hamas hostages was arranged. Palestinians imprisoned by Israel were exchanged. A vocal critic: has the Catholic Church gone berserk? Pope Francis plans to punish American Cardinal Raymond Burke. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Legends album Rockstar is a success. Dolly Parton is amazing with her music. I feel blessed. A 1997 pet memorial website. Guess who is the biggest bully we all know? Trump lost his cyber squatting fight for domain name Mar-a-Lago. Recently, OpenAI's board said, Sam Altman, you're fired. 5 days later, the board was gone and Altman rehired. And that's your poem.
Very nice.
Thank you, Susan. A lot of good stuff to talk about. We're going to try to. Didn't mean to put that there. Try to stay with it. So we got
nice poem, Susan.
Didn't you do a great job? I love that.
No, that's one of the best she's done.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was good. All right, well, we got a very short cast tonight, so let's get Jason out here and stay as long as you can, Susan. And there's our the king of the rants, Jason Grant. Oh,
hey, Jason.
Free George Santos.
Grant the rancher. Okay. What's that, George Santos?
I said free George Santos.
I love that Saturday Night Live skit to Scandal in the Wind.
That was very funny.
Hey guys, I really want to know, because I really haven't had my finger on the pulse of all this. My finger has been in other places.
What now?
I just. But what did Santos do exactly?
He's a con man.
What did he do to deserve this?
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't have been any worse than.
He took campaign contributions
and
spent it on personal beauty products. He didn't use it to conduct polls. He didn't
Okay.
use it for anything for what the people gave him the money for.
And
And
you're
you
saying
can't
this
do
is-
that. That's it.
You're saying this is
If
a
you say
bad
to
thing.
someone, "Give me $100, and I'm going to use
Yeah.
it towards my campaign," and they find out he used it for Botox, no, can't do that. Cannot do that. And
Well,
if
then
you
I'm going
add
to
to
beat the
that,
shit out of the homeless guy who said he wanted a buck for food, because I don't think he spent it on food.
no, he spent it on Botox, and he spent it on I think the guy's name was Chad.
Oh God, Chad! It better not be that same, because that bitch owes me money.
Well, it's not a
And
country in Africa, I'll tell you that.
well, it is if you know the Chad I know.
Oh my God. Deepest
Well,
and darkest.
Remember the hanging chads?
Hanging
Well, I would
Nice.
say hung
Nice.
Chad, but
Yeah,
it
it's
meant
very
something a
good.
little different to
Nice. Hanging Chad. My
me.
favorite porn film.
I believe that was Hung Chad. You're the
Oh,
the
I'm
There you go.
Hung
sorry.
Chad from
No,
Hanging.
mine was hung jury.
Oh,
But
by the
never
way,
mind that.
speaking of Saturday Night Live, I
Yes.
thought that one of the best lines they had was when they said, and I'm paraphrasing, but they said, what's her name? Melania Trump, when she attended Rosalind Carter's funeral, she thought to herself, do all ex-presidents live this long?
Yeah, that was a good line.
All right, now wait a minute. Are we done with George? Are we done with George Santos? I don't want to. I want to try to get this whole list in
Well,
here.
you know, part of the thing, in all seriousness,
We'll
you
get
know,
back to
the Republican majority in the House is razor thin, and losing Santos is like losing one of 5 people that you need to maintain that majority. Not only that, it's really strange in that the gubernatorial candidate in New York had coattails, even though he didn't get the job. He did get a lot of swing districts to go his way. And again, electing Republicans in New
You're talking
York
about Lee
State,
Zeldin.
yes, he had coattails. He didn't get the job, but he sure enough did help people get in.
Well,
And
I
maintaining their hold in Congress is going to require those swing districts stay on the Republican side.
I
It's not
told you
gonna
my
be
theory
easy.
about why they got rid of why they got rid of Santos. This is
Why?
what I think, because he's gay.
I don't
I think
know.
if no, if he had been straight, this would have never happened. But you got all these holy rollers, and they went, well, this is a good chance to get rid of a gay guy. I believe that.
Well, maybe. I mean, you know,
I
if we
mean,
were
he's
talking,
the only crooked Republican in the House.
oh God, no,
Hello?
we've got the Van
Not
Dam and the
likely.
DeVos faction.
the
excuse me.
dude from Florida was transporting minors to an
Yeah,
island in the Caribbean for.
and what's her name?
Hey, they were at least
Lauren
getting
Boebert was
suntan
yanking some
lotion.
guy's Franklin, and she's
Well, who
still
doesn't
there.
do that at a play? I mean, it's
Yeah,
boring after a while.
that was the romantic play Beetlejuice. So
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
how could she help herself? She was getting
Tell me-
Yeah,
robbed.
the musical score just talk about a tearjerker.
Well,
Well,
Jer-
Mark, you talked about Rosalind Carter last week, but then
yeah.
Henry Kissinger died. Do you want to cover anything else on your topics?
Henry
Because
the
Well, you
only
left out
an hour.
Sandra Day O'Connor,
Well,
oh
she's
yeah,
been
Sandra
dead
Day
for a
O'Connor.
while.
That's right.
the
I
first
thought
woman, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she swung the vote to Bush.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun,
Yeah.
but
Well.
she
I
swung
guess
the
you had
vote.
to,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah,
Well,
yeah. I used to wait on her. There was you'll appreciate this, Jason. I used
Yes,
to
sir.
work at a restaurant in D.C.
oh boy.
which I thought had the gayest name of any restaurant I've ever worked at in my life. You
The
ready?
bronze asshole? What?
Bootsy, Winky, and Miss Maud.
Oh my God.
Oh wow!
Oh Jesus.
Wow!
You get AIDS from just walking in there. I mean,
I'm scratching now, and it's been 35 years.
Yeah.
but I bet you could go home and really rearrange your closet like a pro.
It's one of
I
the
mean-
best places I've ever worked in my life. It only had 36 seats, not
Right.
tables, seats.
Right.
It was me and another server, and you split the tips. We had lunch and dinner service, and we
Yes.
split the tips right down the middle because in other words, if my meal came up and I was busy somewhere, she would bring it out. If her,
Nice.
and they had a little kitchen, a tiny kitchen, but there was no microwave. It was all
Right.
made,
I love that.
and we used to have Sandra Day O'Connor come in, several congressmen come in. It was in DuPont Circle, and there was a guy who came in who was a photographer for every Jewish event in D.C. Okay, his name
Oh,
was
dear.
Monty, and my
Okay.
brother said, He said, you know, I was in your neck of the woods, and I saw Monty had lunch at your restaurant. And I said, oh yeah. He said, I have a feeling, and this is 1982. I
Yes.
have a feeling that when Monty suits up, it's for the other team.
Well, you know, you said a photographer for Jewish events. I immediately thought Mapplethorpe. I mean, I couldn't really. Hey, on a more serious, well, somewhat more serious note, I am told, and you're a denizen of Washington, D.C., that one of the tricks there is you got to learn a really good cafeteria for lunch. I had a buddy of mine whose mom was a docent at the Smithsonian, and she said that it was the Federal Reserve used to have the best lunch cafeteria.
They had a
in
sensational
town.
one. There were
Yeah.
3 great cafeterias in D.C. Now, this is when I was there. One was the Federal Reserve, which you can still do.
Right.
Okay. And by the way, the Navy bean soup.
Yes, I've heard.
No, this is true. The Navy bean soup that they serve in the Congressional cafeteria is the best I've ever had. But the other 2 were S&W Cafeteria, which were in the South, and then moved up to D.C. because D.C. was essentially a southern city, and Shoals Cafeteria. And I'll tell you how popular Shoals was when tour groups came into town. You know, when you're on a tour, the tour guide takes you to a place and you eat. Mm-hmm. And obviously they have a financial arrangement with the place, but Shoals is where they went because you could get in and out quickly because it was a cafeteria.
Yeah, I heard like even the Supreme Court people would go over to the Federal Reserve.
Oh yeah,
and have lunch. That was the lunch spot. And of course,
every city has places like that. In Detroit, I worked at Children's Hospital, and when they were filming Beverly Hills Cop, the whole crew came into Children's Hospital and had their meals at the cafeteria there at the hospital.
Well, you guys have been in Detroit. What is Slo's barbecue? I don't know if you've been to Slo's. I haven't. Is it as good as they say it is?
It's good.
It's good. It's the real deal.
It's the real deal. They got 2 locations now. They got one Michigan and Rosa Parks, and they have another one up in near Wayne State on 3rd Avenue.
Oh, nice. You know, in this town, I knew we were going to hell in a hat basket when DeLong's, our favorite barbecue pit, was transformed into a vegan spot. And then, yeah, I know.
Vegan?
I know. Ew. Vegan. It became like this vegan. DeLong's.
I don't mind vegetarian because you can do some very creative things.
Well, you see, the thing is, in Ann Arbor, we used to have a very vibrant Black community. I'm not kidding here. We did, and it's all gone now. They've been all their houses. You know, the old folks moved away. The houses were bought up. Now it's the trendy spot. You want to talk about gentrification? There's been 2. First, they got rid of all the African Americans. Then they got rid of the musicians, and now you've got all the rich people who rebuilt these giant houses that. Back in the day, you couldn't live if you were white. You couldn't live on that side of town because Ann Arbor had real segregation. But we had
the revolution.
Mark wants to get to his list.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I do want to get to my list. Okay. Anything else about? Okay, Sandra Day O'Connor.
Yes.
Quick quiz. Don't look it up. Who took her seat?
Oh, Sandy. I think that was
Clarence Thomas.
No. He took the black guy that was
Thurgood
the NAACP. Yeah, he took Thurgood Marshall's.
Thurgood Marshall's place.
David Souter.
I think maybe it was Souter. No, it wasn't Souter.
All right, Mark, who was it?
It was the Italian guy. Not.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Scalia.
Nope, the other one.
Not Scalia. The other one.
The other one. Samuel Alito.
Alito.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, oh God.
He just passed you in the locker room or something?
No, I wish he'd pass out in the locker room. God.
Sandra Day O'Connor stepped down. It doesn't seem like if Sandra Day O'Connor stepped down 17 years ago. It doesn't seem like it's been.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was the first appointee from Reagan, you know, and she was a friend of Rehnquist. Those 2 had come up together.
You know something that's amazing? Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg were very good friends, and they could not be more opposite.
Yeah, but
that's how you want it. That's how you want it to be.
That's what you find.
That is how you want it to be. She got along with Clarence Thomas well because he provided limo, but Yeah.
Hey, RGB didn't have to walk if she didn't want to.
Hey, listen, driving Miss Ruth.
I think Miss Ruth.
Her biggest mistake was just not retiring sooner than when life come.
But you
took her
know
out.
something about that's funny, and I'm speaking as someone who's old.
Yeah.
Wow, I shouldn't have said it.
Mark.
That you know when people say, oh, you know, they're getting up there, they're getting up.
Yeah.
But if it's you they're talking about, and you feel okay, you're like, what are they talking about?
What are they talking about?
Well,
Exactly.
And you know, a Supreme Court justice has a bit of staff working for them. It's not like they're sitting there sweating out, you know, what to do and how to
Yeah,
do
but
it.
that's what I'm saying. You know, people are saying, you know, this guy's old, that's guy. You know, George Takei said something very interesting. He said everybody's talking about Biden being old. He's only, and I don't know where George came up with this, but he said he's only 4% older than Trump.
Now, did he say that after he was finished eating his boyfriend's ass or before?
You always make it pretty.
Is there a difference in? You mean there's a difference in how someone ages depending on analingus? Is that what you're
George
saying?
Takei is very funny. I find him very
George
entertaining in
Takei,
every
though,
role he's ever played.
Even though he's not my favorite guy in the world, I will say this though: you realize that man was a survivor of Manzanar concentration camp when we took all the Japanese who were American citizens and who did nothing.
That's right.
And we put them in concentration camps with the presidential order. And you know, to be fair, these people would have a right to have a grudge, and yet
all right, new game.
I was on an airplane with him.
New game here. New game. I'm good. We're already 17 minutes in here, so I'm gonna develop
right,
new rules. Here it is. Here it is.
Along. I'm sorry.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'm gonna run down the topics. You get one line. If it's funny, you get a second line.
Okay.
If not, we go on to the next person. All right, here we go.
Is on.
All right, we'll start with Sam, Rosalind Carter.
You know,
actually, her funeral. We talked about her last week.
For the funeral?
Rosalind Carter funeral. Comment about Rosalind Carter's funeral.
When Rosalind Carter was being buried, there were several Democrats who said, is there room in there for another man? Maybe somebody with orange hair.
Me.
All right, Jason, what do you got?
I went to the funeral dressed as a clown, John Wayne Gacy II. Said this, see if I could, sit right next to her, get a picture.
All right, Susan, what do you got?
I don't have anything to say. She was wonderful. That's it.
Oh, kiss ass.
Wow.
We talked about her last
I don't know.
week.
You're
She's an
squandering.
amazing person.
You're squandering your comedy bona fides.
These are gems we're laying before you.
This is comedy gold. I mean, come on.
I wrote the poem.
You did.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. We'll give you.
I write the songs.
My thing on Rosalind Carter's funeral is, I don't really care that Melania Trump didn't wear a black
underwear. Okay.
Well, we knew that wasn't going on, but I mean, everybody got all upset because she wore bright spring colors. One, it's December. Two, it's a funeral, and everybody else was wearing black, and people got bent out of shape. And to me,
did Hillary show up?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Yes, she did.
All the former first ladies were there, and all the living first presidents.
Well, if the dead ones were there, you have a scoop.
That would be
all
nice.
The presidents and the living presidents and living
first
ladies were there. That was
except for Trump, and people gave him a hard time about that. But did we really?
Oh no! He did us a favor.
Yeah,
so
in fact,
it wasn't about him, so he wasn't going to be there.
Exactly, it wasn't about him.
There, I've given you a line.
What's his name? Congressman Dingell, Senator John from Arizona, Senator John, the war hero, John
McCain.
John McCain. I mean, all these families that asked Trump, please don't come to the funeral. He probably just assumes that nobody wants him at his funeral at their funerals anymore.
Well, he's trying to get a tea time at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, come on. Probably throwing orphans off the course to get them out of the way. And
all right, next round. Henry Kissinger. Anything about Henry Kissinger other than he lived to be 100?
I grew up with him, and I did. Probably he was my first junior high understanding
please
of
finish
what.
that sentence.
I mean, as a
Please,
child, when I was
please
starting to learn what politics were and who elected officials were and so forth, Henry Kissinger was somebody that got me interested in politics. And I never met the man, but he had a pretty amazing career.
Let me just say the proper end to the sentence that begins, Henry Kissinger was my first. The only proper ending to that sentence is assignment for a paper in junior high.
Exactly.
That is the only correct answer for that.
I told you what Randy Critico said about him.
What did he say?
He said, I went to see the movie Platoon, and Henry Kissinger was sitting behind me. I think it was Kissinger, because when napalm was dropped, I heard somebody go, "Wonderful." His brother does not have any accent at all. Kissinger's brother, none, not any accent.
It was affected, I think.
No, I think this is what I think. Just in case they come back.
You got anything, Jason?
He was the best practitioner of realpolitik, which a lot of people do not like. But the fact of the matter is that the man did understand foreign policy. I also credited him for writing 2 very lengthy tomes, which I read while I was in prison, a guest of the state of Michigan, for a few minor indiscretions in the 80s. Who knew?
No reason to be bitter now.
Not at all. I mean,
well,
if you have to be gay and in the 80s, why not be in prison?
And why not read what Henry Kissinger wrote?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kissinger was like Nixon in the sense that once they left the public arena, presidents after his time all consulted with him, came to him for advice.
The day before he died, they were on the phone with that man.
A week before he died, he was in China talking to Xi Jinping.
Exactly. Yes. He's also he's not the exact character, but Walter Matthau's character in Failsafe is largely considered to be patterned on Henry Kissinger, and
Peter Sellers' character in Dr. Strangelove was modeled on him.
Was modeled.
It was completely modeled on him. They Stanley Kubrick said, "I saw Kissinger at a party, and I said, that's who I absolutely, the wavy hair, the glasses."
Oh God! And I hated Peter Sellers as a human being. What a dreadful man.
Peter Sellers sounds like a gay pimp.
Well, actually, that would give gay pimps a bad name.
Bad dad. Terrible.
Yeah,
father.
exactly. The things he did to his children and whatnot. But I mean, I think the guy had a massive personality disorder. I'm not kidding about that. It's what made him a great actor. He could absorb certain roles, but there was no human being there.
Peter Sellers, not in the news. Let's move on.
All right. Okay,
Peter Sellers, not in the news. Let's
still
move
dead
on.
after all these
still
years.
Dead. Peter Sellers is still dead. All right. Nikki Haley. Now, Sam, I saw you put out a little commentary on Nikki, directed towards Nikki Haley this week.
Yes.
So I'll let you lead with this one.
For me, okay. If Nikki Haley wants to be the presidential candidate, she's got to stop thinking about Vivek Ramaswamy, unless it's a Jeopardy question. She has to stop thinking about Chris Christie, unless it's a Weight Watchers question. Okay. The only thing you have to attack, see, they're not attacking Trump like I would. And I'm not saying this to be funny. I would poke the dog. I'd say, listen, if I was, what would you say if you were with Trump? I'd say, listen, Tubby, I would say every insulting, demeaning thing you could say, and that will get a rise out of him where he eventually will say something, well, more stupid and rash. You're a loser. You're a horrible president. You're a miserable father. You're a lousy husband. You cheated. Get him. I strongly disagree. No, bullshit. Go after him. And they won't do it. They will not do it.
Oh, what you guys, you got anything on this, Jason?
I see her as the perfect synthesis of Indira Gandhi and Betty Crocker.
I think Trump loses to everybody, and I don't think the Republicans think so.
Trump is going to get the nomination, and the Republican Party is going to go up in a big ball of flames.
I think if
what's gonna
she
happen.
gets the nomination, then Trump is going to say it was a fraudulent count.
Well,
No,
can say
he'll
that
run
if
as
he
a
Trump will
third
say
party
that.
candidate.
Trump would say that for anybody.
Yeah,
Trump
he
would
No,
will
say
that's
that.
right. He will run as a third party candidate because,
In
as
which
I have said
case,
before, he's not a
I think that's.
Republican. He's a
I
Trump.
think that's what the Republicans are afraid of. They're afraid that
and
if they
and
don't nominate him, he'll go against them.
and if he does run as a third party candidate, much like RFK Jr. running as a third party candidate or Cornel West, all it
But
will
he's
do.
much more of a threat to the Republicans than those two bozos are to the
Yes,
Democrats.
But
I mean, they might get
he will
5% of the vote
submarine.
total. He'll get a
He
third
will
of the vote.
he will
He'll
receive.
get a
Yeah,
third of the Republican vote.
just remember H. Ross Perot denying George Bush Sr. reelection.
Yes,
And
he was
Dole.
also much more of a credible threat than RFK Jr.
Everyone loved him until he started talking about the Republicans were going to crash his daughter's wedding. And at that point, and also his choice for vice presidential candidate, John Stockdale was a very good man, but he had a
And it was
hearing
horrible the
problem,
way the press treated him.
and they treated
Yeah.
him horribly.
He was a war hero.
He was
He got
our longest serving POW.
He got the Thomas Eagleton treatment.
Yes, he did.
In fact, his eardrum was permanently damaged, being tortured.
tortured.
No, he was a good. But here's the
was.
thing: he should not have been in that.
Exactly.
It's easy for us to say, but there was a line from the movie Q&A, about people like, well, you shouldn't take this. Once you get the hunger, once somebody dangles that kind of level, you could be vice president of the United States.
Can you guys to this day, can you explain Dan Quayle as vice president?
I can.
I can't.
Absolutely.
He
was younger than George Bush. He was better. He was a good-looking guy. He was filled with a lot of energy, and he hadn't talked as much as you remember him talking.
And
he was very energetic. He said very, very little. And if he had known how to spell potato, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
You think so?
Yeah, he also was from flyover country. He and Mike Pence are both from Indiana. So those flyover states are always, that's where you get your vice presidents from. Is the flyover.
By the way,
I know, but I don't think, like, Dan Quayle probably doesn't wear women's lingerie off duty. I'm not sure we can say the same thing about Pence.
Not going to go there.
Pence is a closet case.
Let's move on, Mark.
All right.
Can I say something real quick about Quayle? Real quick.
Yeah, please.
Quayle was asked if your daughter became. Larry King asked him this: if your daughter became pregnant and she said she was going to get an abortion, what would you do? And he said, I would support my daughter's decision, which was a huge thing for him to say. He said, I love my daughter, and if that's her decision, I disagree with it, but I would support it. Then they asked his wife, Marilyn Quayle. This is what she said. I'll never forget this. She will take the child to term.
I remember Marilyn Quayle.
And she also hammered George Bush's son-in-law.
Which one?
It was at a wedding. They just her daughter, the Bush's daughter, just gotten married, and Marilyn Quayle started hammering him because he was pro-choice. Yes. And Barbara Bush, to her everlasting credit, said, "Excuse me for a second," and grabbed her by the elbow and guided her over and said, "This is a wedding party. Let's not make it anything else."
Ooh. No,
and I'll dick you, bitch.
If Barbara Bush gives you advice, you should listen.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're moving on.
We're moving on. Okay, in the interest of time and to basically test your comedy chops, let's combine the next two headlines. There was a tunnel collapse for a road project under the Indian Himalayas, and Paris Hilton had a baby daughter born of surrogacy. So let's just combine those two headlines. And how do you feel about how do you feel about Paris Hilton having a baby born of surrogacy while there was a collapsed tunnel under the Himalayas?
Well, if you're talking about Paris Hilton having a tunnel collapse, I would believe that.
There you go.
What's her second baby?
That's what I'm talking about.
That's the winner right there.
And a fair number of Indians being rescued as a result of the tunnel collapse. You know, when these people, when we reach this level of wealth and decadence, think about this, that you can have anything you want. You have rich people now who have space programs. Even Cleopatra from beyond the grave, probably one of the richest, smartest women who've ever lived, is looking at these people going, whoa, you should scale this back just a notch or two.
But you must
I mean,
remember, and I read this in a history, French history. Yes, I took French history.
Yeah.
That, when we talk about how wealthy they were,
Yeah.
King Louis XVI, his salary, his wealth was $80,000 a year.
Wow.
In a time, though, if you were lucky to make $100 a year.
I agree, but it wasn't, oh my God, money. It wasn't anything approaching, oh my God, money. I will say this about the tunnel collapse. Let it be said that no one tried to curry favor.
Oh.
Oh.
I'm sorry, is this thing on? Tragically,
Hello.
yes.
Tragically, can you hear me out there?
Yeah, the thing I could see, I don't know, it was on the Indian side and not the Chinese side, and I'm not sure there's even a joke there, but what do they need a tunnel under the Himalayas for?
They're trying to put in a road, but the problem is that the terrain is not conducive, and I guess they didn't want to listen to the engineers. So
Be about right.
Why don't they
This
listen to
happened.
They should just listen to the Sherpas saying, "Hey,
Well-
you're taking jobs. We help you climb over the mountain. You don't need to go."
They asked one of the guys who was rescued, how did he feel about, it? And he said, that with the tunnel collapsing. And they said, well, it hasn't been the same since Francona retired. So,
maybe Paris Hilton will put
oh,
them
not
up.
that Indian. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Different Indian.
By the way,
Here's one that didn't make the poem. Just because it came out today. Jim Leland got elected
Hall
to
of
the
Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Well, good for him.
They did. Yeah, they did it for the Old Timers Committee, and they do a very smart thing. It's not like every ball player in the world votes. It's 16 people vote, and you have to get 12 out of 16 votes, and he got 15, and unfortunately, Lou Piniella only got 11.
Oh,
So he'll probably get in next. He'll probably get in next time.
He'll get in next year. I don't see how.
Did they send Leland the notification by writing it on the back of a pack of Lucky Strikes and passing it to him?
Probably. Yeah, they probably sent him a
Between
card.
him and Earl Weaver, there's not a clear lung between them.
God,
I'm amazed.
Well, as long as you're off
I tell you
topic,
what,
also in the news, Babe Ruth's baseball card when he was a 19-year-old pitcher sold for some number of millions of dollars.
$7.2 million.
Yeah.
Wow, 7.2. See, now that's worth to me. That's worth 7.2 million.
And you know why? Because it's his rookie card. That's why it's worth so much.
Yeah, and it was when he was a pitcher and played for Boston.
Wouldn't it be great if somebody looked at it and said, "Wait a minute, this guy is thin. This guy is thin."
That's a bit. Well, he grew up in a Baltimore orphanage, so
yeah.
Yes,
Well, I
he
guess
did.
my Gates Brown rookie card is not going to get quite as much as that.
I won $100 because of Babe Ruth. The question was that I was asked. It was a trivia thing, and the guy got pissed at me because I kept getting the questions right. And he said, and I could hear him. He goes, "I'll get this little fucker now." And so the question was, Babe Ruth was, as you said, Babe Ruth was raised in an orphanage in Baltimore. What was the name of the priest who was a guiding influence on him? And I went, Brother Matthias. And the guy goes, "Get out. Get out." They threw me out of the trivia contest. They threw me out.
Get out now.
And the only reason I knew that is because when William Bendix played Babe Ruth in the Babe Ruth story, a great actor, Charles Bickford, played Brother Matthias. And if you saw the movie, you knew that. But I was thrown out. And you could hear people going, other people want to know other people want to play too. And I went, well, other people should learn trivia.
Exactly.
And the girl I was with said, you had to say that. I said, yes, I had to. Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry I'm smart. Please forgive me. I'm sorry I read. Please find it in your heart to kiss my ass.
All right. Well, we got five more. We got
Sam
five more headlines. And
I'm ready, baby.
Ready? Ceasefire was expanded from 4 to 6 days. We have anything to say about that?
But
It's
for
hard to
you,
explain.
5.5.
But for you, 5. Now, if you act now, 5.5.
If you act now,
This is not going to last. I'm telling you.
operators are standing by.
This deal
Cannot
will
be
not
sold in
last.
stores because stores aren't stupid.
But I'm okay. Just in all seriousness, I'm a comedian and I love making people laugh. But this is the type of thing that just distresses me so much. I have so many Palestinian, Lebanese, Yemeni
Friends, associates.
friends, associates, and I have so many Jews friends and associates that it's just I'm so silent on this, and I just want everything to stop. I just want the killing to stop.
Well, it would be lovely.
How many wars are fought in the name of God?
Too many.
Quite a few,
That's the problem.
But consider this. Consider this. On one side of a fairly significant border, you have one nation of people who has constructed a nation by which people are living at the highest standard of living that human beings have ever known. And on the other side, it is fucking medieval. And somehow or another, it's the Israelis' fault. It's the same goddamn rock. You go out to Hong Kong, it's a rock. You go to Singapore, it's a rock. These are some of the most high-grossing, advanced places on Earth. These people are clinging to the past. They're clinging to
but here's the
death
problem. The people in Gaza are not the problem. The problem
Yes,
is
they are.
all these bastards around them, these filthy rich
Yes.
countries,
Yes,
don't
that's
lift a
true.
finger for them. Okay,
Are you
Saudi
kidding?
Arabia could end all these problems tomorrow. Iran could end all their problems tomorrow.
Iran is the reason
and they
why
don't.
this is happening.
And they don't.
No, they don't. In fact, they want the problem to continue. They've been used as a stalking horse all my life, from the time they were being kicked out of
All
Jordan
of
during the
mine.
Black September, when they were sent to Lebanon, where they caused the Maronite Christian government to fail, which had a power sharing agreement, which had turned Beirut into the Paris of the Middle East, and it was turned into a hellhole. They were kicked out of Kuwait because as soon as Saddam Hussein invaded, the Palestinians couldn't cuddle up with them fast enough. So when the Al-Sabbath family was put back in place, thank you, George Bush, and our military-industrial complex. Yeah, talk about, let's back the good guy. I don't know. The most inbred fucking bunch of miscreant billionaires God ever put on planet Earth.
Get them, baby.
Yeah. Tell me I'm wrong.
They asked George Bush how he felt about Beirut. And he said, well, he's no equal to Hank Aaron.
Beirut.
Good night, everybody. You've been great.
Good night, everybody. But the thing of the matter, but my point is simply this. They're both living on the same piece of dirt, quite literally. Egypt is, as I have famously pointed out, 340,000 square miles. That's just one country. That's just Egypt, sitting next to Morocco, sitting next to Algeria, sitting next to Libya. There's all other places here that these people could be resettled, or they could establish trade routes. They could establish universities. They could establish banking institutions.
But they won't, because they want to create martyrs.
Exactly. United Arab Emirates is Sam, you were saying you had friends who worked in the UAE or
yes.
Or
I have a Jewish friend who works in the UAE.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet that it's probably one of the most modern places that you'll ever, parachute into.
It's beyond modern. It's postmodern. It's
You even go to Saigon today, modern day Saigon, which most people call it, not Ho Chi Minh City. You will see tall, gleaming skyscrapers.
Sure, once we left them alone.
Yes, and they want us back.
You know what happened there? It was that they wanted that. I'm trying to remember. Ho Chi Minh first came to the United States.
Yeah.
Ho Chi Minh was not a communist. He was a socialist. He came to the United States. It's a big difference.
He
came to the United States and begged us for help.
Yeah.
Begged us. And the reason we turned him down, no, I know this. The reason they turned him down is because it would offend the French desk at the State Department, because Vietnam was very, very French influenced. Okay.
And
that's
Harry
the
Truman.
Reason.
First off, FDR was very big on that these European powers are going to have to divest of their empire.
That's right.
Both Great Britain and France. Post World War II, Truman maintain that policy. And Eisenhower stepped that up entirely. When they were begging Eisenhower to help them out of Dien Bien Phu, he said, I told you to get your ass out of there. I'll drop you a couple sea rations by air. Other than that, you guys need to figure this out. And then
they wouldn't do it.
And then what do? We go in after them, and we make every single mistake the French had made before. We speed run 100 years of French colonialism in 15 years. And
a friend of mine's father drove Eisenhower's Jeep during D-Day.
Right.
And they asked him, because sergeants run the army, they asked him, what would you do in Vietnam? He said, I would leave.
Yeah.
I would let them overrun it. Yeah. I would let them take out Kiao Ki, and then they'd ask us for aid, and we'd give them aid, and then they would be in our pocket instead of 58,000 Americans dying.
Which is where they are now. They're asking us to come back to Cam Ranh Bay because the Chinese are breathing down their neck.
A friend of mine went to Vietnam.
And now Americans are moving to Vietnam because they can live there on a Social Security wage.
Yes, they can. And it's beautiful.
By the way, on Everybody Loves Raymond, you remember Raymond's wife? Her parents were very hip people, hip New Yorkers.
Yep, Deborah.
And they told Raymond's father, the Archie Bunker. They go, guess where we're going on our second honeymoon? He goes, I have no idea. Vietnam. What are you going to give Charlie some payback?
Well, here's what I have to say about Vietnam.
Yes,
on my bucket list, someday I would really like to try authentic Vietnamese egg coffee.
All right, then.
Love to try it. Can we back up a second, Mark? You were talking about the Israel and Hamas and the hostages, and briefly we mentioned Egypt. And I just want to point out that Egypt has been a refuge historically for thousands of years. If you go back, remember that baby that the season we're coming up to celebrate, and Herod was going to slaughter all the babies under age 2, and his parents fled to Egypt.
Yeah, got out of town.
He saved his life. So Egypt has been a refuge for nations for millennia.
And they have sealed their border with Gaza.
Exodus started in Egypt. So then.
Well, everyone went to Egypt to get food. If you go back to when Joseph of the coat of many colors was there.
Yes.
And they didn't start out as slaves there, but they moved there because of the famine. And Egypt saved many, many, many lives.
Yeah.
It was never the same after Paul Newman tried to act like an Israeli.
I was going to say after Elizabeth Taylor played Cleopatra, but no.
Oh, she did.
By the way, one of the unintentionally funniest lines ever. She's in bed with Rex Harrison, and she goes, "My thighs are wide, which is so good for bearing children." And some guy in the audience behind me went, "So good for everything."
That's funny. You said Rex Harrison, and I thought Rex Reed for a moment, and I thought,
no,
hold on. That would have made the movie different if Rex Reed had played.
Rex Harrison was relentlessly straight, and we know about Rex Reed.
And Rex Reed wasn't.
All right, we only got 15 minutes left, so I'm going to combine a couple more here.
Here we go.
All right, here we go. Pope Francis plans to punish American Cardinal Raymond Burke, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame legend Dolly Parton puts out her first rock album. Who gets the greater punishment? The Arch Cardinal or the listening public who has to listen to the rock and roll Dolly Parton?
Oh my God, the Cardinal, anything Dolly Parton sings is a little slice of heaven.
Yeah. Remember Johnny Cash doing his best work up until the grave? And by the way, he was covering 9 Inch Nails. He was covering Nick Cave. His version of Mercy Seat is amazing.
But he had the musical chops to know that was good.
Yeah. Hey, has anybody heard
I think Dolly Parton has musical chops. So,
yes, she does.
So I look forward to everything.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah,
nothing Dolly Parton. No one has ever heard Dolly Parton. No one has ever thought about Dolly Parton saying, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that."
No.
You know,
Whereas the American Cardinal might want to have a street person start his limo for the next couple of weeks.
Well, you know what his,
just
you
what
know
was
why
he in trouble for?
he's in trouble because he is speaking out against the Pope, which you don't do as a Catholic.
But what was he? What for? What?
The Pope is too liberal, is trying to.
Oh well, that you say. Then I say.
you see,
trying to encouraging loving people that are LGBTQ plus, and says that.
Oh, fuck the fairies, man! They get enough as it is.
Anyway, he's I can't remember which archdiocese he's from, but he's got an apartment in Rome. What a deal that is! You're
It's
the
at the
Archbishop
John
of
Paul
You got an
Archbishop
apartment in
of the
Rome?
Vatican.
Are you kidding me? I'd keep my mouth glued tight shut. Are you kidding? I don't care if the Pope came out and said, if you're banging chicks, it's cool with Frankie. That's fine. That's fine, please.
Cool with Frankie.
Well, I think the issue is, though, that the Pope is deviating from those 66 plus however many more Catholic books you have in the Bible. And that's where the Cardinal is saying your agenda has gone askew from biblical truths. And that's why he's in trouble, because the Pope wants to be more liberal.
This is what I would say to him. One of you is a cardinal, and one of you is the Pope.
It's the Pope.
Now, which one gets to say what goes? You have 5 seconds. Oh,
Yeah.
time's up.
But somebody tells somebody, this is why we had a Protestant Reformation. We already split the church over, disagree. It can be done.
That's right.
And people go on with their lives,
And that's where you end up with the Protestants. Best exemplified by Fred Phelps and the Westboro Baptist Church. You can see I'm coming down on the side of the Orthodox.
I interviewed that guy, Jason.
What was
did
that
you really?
like? Tell me.
He was he was everything. He was exactly what you thought he would be. He was mean-spirited. He was harsh. He was vicious. There was and so I decided to be Sam Greenfield. I decided, so he would say something. I go, you don't mean that. Because he would say like, God to take these fags and blah blah blah. Yeah. I said, my experience has been that people who speak out that vehemently against homosexuality may in fact have a roving, how should I say this, a roving round eye.
Well, there was a guy once upon a time by the name of Martin Luther, who had a lot of issues with the Roman Catholic Church.
About
and
100 of them,
and he wrote them all down, and he
nailed it on a wall.
And then he was a threat for his life for lots and lots of years, really. So I hope that the Pope isn't that mad at the Cardinal.
One of the reasons that Martin Luther did that was his wife, because she was overheard saying, "Fight the Pope," you say. Yeah, that's right. Go against the Pope. That was smart. Jesus, are you nuts?
Well, he left the Catholic
I can't go to the
Church and
store
then he
now without
married
getting yelled at? Huh?
He left the Catholic Church and then he married a nun.
Yes.
So she left the Catholic Church too.
Well, and they married on Easter Sunday because that's just what you do when you want to.
What helped Martin Luther was the Gutenberg printing press.
Well, yeah, that or the Guttmacher Institute for reproduction.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Hey, if you ever read or listen to the book The 50s by what's his name? The same guy who wrote Best and Brightest.
Halberstam.
David Halberstam.
Right. He does an amazing deep dive, because you think of the pill, you think of the 60s, but it actually starts in the 50s. With the Guttmacher Institute and the people who were looking at different ways of creating a pill, because contraception at that time was such a hot button issue, and women were being just terribly denied any kind of contraceptive help or any. I mean, you want to talk about just sort of uterine slavery. And Uterine Slavery is a great techno band out of Detroit.
My life was saved by thalidomide.
Really?
Thalidomide was the pill that women took. I think it was for sleeping.
Yeah, it was.
If you could get pregnant, a child could be born without limbs.
Yes.
Yep.
And so they stopped making it, but they kept researching it, and they found out it kills tumors. And that's what I take. That's exactly what I take for my cancer. And
Well,
that's
but
what
for
has my
leprosy,
cancer.
too.
That's what has my cancer in check. Is
Yes.
that it? But they changed the name. They changed the name to Revlimid.
Yes.
And
But you're not
and
getting pregnant anytime soon.
Well, while you're talking
I'm
about
ovulating, I'll say that.
babies, one news story that didn't make it into the
Yeah.
poem was, did you hear about Kim Jong-un has ordered North Korean women to have more babies?
Oh,
as
good.
long as it's not him helping out.
Oh, it will be. Oh, it will be.
Imagine that sleazy little dumpling
Oh,
laying
my
on you. Oh my
God.
God.
Oh,
Well, the
my
birth rate
God.
has dropped significantly in North Korea over the last decade.
Because
and
people
now
don't
he's
have
telling
food.
these women
Yeah.
to have babies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell Kim Jong refrigerator to start feeding his people. Got
Come
people
He can't. He's
dropping dead in
busy
the
building
street.
nuclear weapons.
Come to Blimpy Daddy.
He needs to build nuclear weapons, and yeah, that's where they've been spending it. Same thing goes with Pakistan. Whenever they have a major flood, and I'm supposed to weep tears for them, it's like, tell you what, why don't you try shutting down one of your nuclear reactors that you're using to make bombs with, not generate power, but because it's two different things.
Bombs and only bombs.
That's what they're made. By the way, the French helped them make their reactors. And you know what? Why don't you shut that down and build a fucking dike for a little bit, and maybe help the people out
Excuse
just
me.
a little bit. But no, they'd rather build.
Can you
another...
build a dike? Oh, you mean a dam?
Yes. I'm talking about something to hold back water,
Oh,
not
okay.
something to help you come
We
out
don't
and
mean-
change the plumbing.
you don't
You know
mean
what the
build.
little Dutch boy put
We
his
have the
finger in.
technology, Sam. We can build a dike.
Okay. So it's like AI.
AI,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly. And then it
And
shows
that
up
all
at your
takes
house
you
and wants to
segue,
borrow
Mark.
your power saw.
8 minutes left. Let's get these. All right. In 1997,
Yes.
a couple created a pet memorial site, called it Mar-a-Lago. And Trump has been trying to get the name from them, and he just recently lost the last suit. He was cyber squatting. I don't know what that is. Does that mean he was somehow?
Trump claimed that this pet memorial site took Mar-a-Lago and cyber squatted it to try and make millions. And they were able to prove that
They've had
they
it since
were not
1997.
cyber squatting the name.
I'd be willing to bet you that there is no pet cemetery.
It's a pet memorial website.
That
And,
one
and
that I will take that. That makes millions.
international, international intellectual properties lawyers and judges all weighed in on this. Trump lost. This
Well,
is a
naming-
legitimate pet website named after a dog or a cat named Mar, a dog
Right.
that had an A name, and another pet that was named Lago, and it's been around since 1997. And Trump lost, and he lost big time. And he's such a baby about it.
Well, of course, he's a baby about everything. I didn't lose the election. It's amazing. Everybody who knows him knows he lost. He knows he lost, and he's still talking about it. He
Hillary's
knows he
still
lost,
going
and he's
on
still
about
talking about it.
2016. Hell, John
All right.
Kerry still natters on about 2004 and the voting machines in Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
it's
Well,
just
how about
the way it is.
OpenAI's board?
All right,
What
here's
did you
here's
think
my
about
favorite.
that story, Mark?
Here's my favorite headline. The AI board fired Sam Altman, but after the recoil from the shareholders, they fired the board and hired Sam Altman back.
You
So
think
now
it's
I'm
Sam?
thinking-
You think it's Sam Altman?
Exactly.
Well,
You beat me
I
to
would-
An
it.
AI
Sam.
generated Sam Altman?
Yeah.
An AI exactly. And what I'm thinking is, was it a real board that fired him? I mean, how did he actually? Did he actually get? He probably got some sort of notification. How does he know that it was an actual board that fired him?
Well,
It was
he speaking
AI.
from his
It was
home-
AI doing what AI is going to do.
Well,
and
he
that
was
is
speaking
take
from his
over
home
the
in Stepford.
world.
Yeah, I mean, this
So
is
let me ask
all
you
our
guys a
future.
question. Let's say that I want AI to write a paper for me, right?
Yeah.
Right.
As you may have noticed, I am computer. So
Yeah.
how do I get AI on my laptop?
You
I
just
think you would start
download
with
one of the
Google.
apps.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You would first
There's
of all
an
what
app.
what you would probably do is I started watching. Let me see if I can find it here. I started watching a guy who does YouTube videos reviewing AI products. And of course, he does about 3 or 4 a week because they're coming out so fast. And of course, they're using AI to create these AI apps. So, I mean, it's
Well, while
like
you're doing that, Mark, I can share what happened in the world of law. But not too long ago, some lawyers decided to have AI write their briefs. And
Yeah.
AI did a good job, except they made up fake cases. So,
So it's like Wikipedia.
so the lawyers were in big
Yeah.
trouble because they didn't fact check their own briefs that the AI had written. And, you know, AI didn't have cases that would make their argument. So they pretended that it did. So
That's
thanks,
like
Hal.
that's like a professor of mine. He had a, we're taking a test, right, in modern theater history, and he left, and it was an objective test. So it was true, false, fill in the blank, right? He left the key to the test on the stage because we took the test in the theater on the stage. So people come by and they see the key and they start passing it around. Well, it was a false key.
Oh dear.
He did it to screw with them.
I
And
just
I didn't do it because I read the first one. I went, well, this isn't right. I mean,
yeah.
am I losing my mind? And so I did. And so when people started complaining, I said, you just started putting it in. You just assumed, you didn't even look to see if it was true. You didn't fact check it. Well, there was no such thing back then, but you didn't check it to see if it was right. You can't be pissed at yourself. And
You
they
know,
said,
Sam, I'm having a brilliant idea here. We need you to reshoot 2001: A Space Odyssey, and when Hal is saying I can't open the pod bay doors, we let you come in and start telling Hal what the fuck is going to happen.
exactly.
You know, I can't open the doors, Sam. Listen here, you miserable cock-sucking piece of machinery. I'm coming in there, and by the time I'm done with you,
how about if I throw water on your gear shift? Sam, I don't have a gear shift. Well, you do now.
All right. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got the name for that. There's a YouTube channel called Skill Leap AI.
SKILLLEAP.
SKILL, second word LEAP, third word AI.
Because
And
sometimes
it's
they try to be
basically
cute.
it's just a techie, just a nerd who goes into all the AIs that are free. Now he admits he'll tell you when he's paid for a subscription for one of them because he is a reviewer and he's trying to get viewers. That's how he gets his clicks, gets him his money. But he reviews these newest AI sites, so he does about 3 or 4 of these videos a week because they're coming out so fast. And so that's a full-time job for him. He'll spend a whole 2 or 3 days going over these AI apps.
I
So
bet
that's
he
probably
leads
the
a
best.
lonely life.
That's probably the best.
Yeah.
Go to his YouTube channel and start watching his stuff, and
I'm
you'll get a
willing.
little information.
I'm willing to bet he doesn't have a girlfriend.
Oh,
Well,
you know he doesn't have a girlfriend. Oh my God! I mean, how could you?
That's not important.
It's not important. The important thing is that his mother is feeding him through a tube from the kitchen into the basement. And he's giving us the information we need. Let's be clear about this.
It's important to his Willie.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. You got 1 minute, Mark.
Okay,
I
Mark.
know. A minute and 12 seconds actually.
Ooh,
So
all right.
I'm like, anything need to be said about the Lions or the Commanders at this point?
I would like to say this. I got on tonight without anyone's help.
Yeah.
Whoa! Oh!
Can I
Round
say?
of applause for you.
Yeah. Can I also say that without Andy or Wes, we sound pretty good.
Yeah. You know.
Take it as
And I
an
stuck around for the whole show.
Yeah,
by the way, asking me to talk about the Commanders is like asking me to talk about the Commanders.
Hey, do you think they'll stick with that name, or do you think
No,
that
absolutely
new
not.
management will?
No.
I really liked the Washington football team. They did it for 3 years.
That's what I like.
I don't know why
Actually,
they couldn't have kept that.
Sam,
there was a woman in Richmond who had a club. You remember her, April Passarella, and it was
Yeah.
called the Richmond Comedy Club. And
Yeah.
people made fun of her, and she said, It tells you where it is and what it does.
Yep.
Yeah. You
Yep.
guys are familiar with the young fan who showed up at the Commanders with a headdress, and they assumed his face was red and black, and they said, "Oh, he was a kid in blackface," and blown up all over the media. Any opinion on how?
And real quick, as far as the Lions go, it was really close. You won.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all. You won.
They
That's
won.
all
All
that
that
matters.
Bye,
Well-
everybody.
Bye. Stay with us. Stay with us. We always chat after we go off the live cast. So
This is our chance to badmouth our audience.
that's right. We talk about
Close
we
the
talk
show.
about it. All right. So anyway, we're here every Monday night at 8 o'clock. It's old comics and
What?
it's old. It's old. You know what? I tried to make
Old
this
comics and a
everybody-
beautiful woman.
and a beautiful old comics. And a
Well,
beautiful
thank you.
And
Susan, I.
Well, thank you, sir.
all right, you bitches. Knock it off.
I'm just a randy little vixen named Bologna.
Anyway,
Oh, Fiddle Dee Dee.
we take the topics of the news of the week and we talk about that. We talk about movies. We talk about sports. Tonight we pretty much stuck to the list because Susan wrote a great poem for us. That's how we always start. Subscribe, like this, like the channel. It's called The Off Night. We're here every Monday night at 8. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Hit subscribe. Hit subscribe.
Hit subscribe. Exactly. Hit subscribe.